Hey everyone. All right, so we're on to part two of chapter nine. Nothing. I say this every single time that nothing significant happened, but okay. So they had sex like crazy, and he intimidated a bad guy because there's still like five more chapters left in this book, so clearly the intimidation is not going to work. And now she's at his apartment. Okay, part two of chapter nine. Running out of stuff to see in the living room, she mounted toward the bedroom. Gage was standing naked in front of a tall dresser, going through a drawer of underwear. Max stopped and let herself enjoy the view. Out of the corner of her eye, she took in several other facets of the room: a big bed, another dresser with its drawers hanging half open, a wall closet holding mostly uniforms, and a black duffel bag sitting on the floor half full of clothes and toiletries. How much stuff does he need? But mostly she looked at Gage and that amazing naked body of his. She bit her lip as heat pooled between her thighs. It wouldn't be possible to be aroused. Sorry, it shouldn't be possible to be aroused. They had made love so many times last night, she should have been satisfied for the next month. But that wasn't the case at all. As she enjoyed the play of muscles over his tight ass and broad back, she felt herself getting wet. She was definitely going to have to change her panties when they got back to her place. How the hell did Gage do this to her? He stopped, his head coming up sharply. Then he turned to her with a smoldering smile. The hungry expression only served to make her wetter and left her wondering if he'd picked up on her arousal. I'm almost ready. Against her will, her eyes drifted down to the perfect thick cock at the junction of his muscular thighs. His shaft pulsed slightly, then slowly hardened. Is that a thing that men's penises do? Do they pulse slightly? It's like that one author who says that they twitch. Most certainly are, she murmured, only realizing after the fact that she said it out loud. He closed the distance between them in two strides, yanking her fully clothed body against his completely naked one and kissing her hard. I kind of guessed that he was naked and she was fully clothed. It felt so wicked and so perfect, and it took her breath away. He tasted so good, and felt even better. Damn, she was practically vibrating with need. This must be what they meant when they say two people are sexually compatible, because right now, she couldn't imagine another man in the world who could make her feel like this. I'm sorry. That's because he's the one. The sensation of his now rock-hard cock pressing against her stomach was enough to almost drive her crazy, and she would have dropped to her knees to worship it, but he wouldn't let her. Instead, he picked her up and carried her over to his bed. He yanked off her flip-flops and jeans, yet it wasn't fast enough to suit her. A tiny part of her, the part that had nothing to do with helping Gage strip off her panties so he could flip her over on her hands and knees, wondered how she could possibly go from not even thinking about sex to wanting it so badly she didn't care if he ripped her clothes off clothes to tatters. But one look at him as he took the condom packet out of the bedside table and rolled it on told her everything she needed to know. Gage made it possible for her to act like this. Because she was a prude before? She wanted him so badly because that was exactly the same way he wanted her. Like she was the only thing he could think about. Like she was as important to his survival as air. When he pulled her ass closer toward the edge of the bed and plunged into her wetness, they both released groans of pure pleasure. He was a deeper, more possessive growl, but hers wasn't any less animalistic. She wanted him to possess her completely, make her his in every possible way. His hands firmly grasped her hips as he slowly moved inside her. With each thrust, he pumped harder and harder until he buried himself all the way to her very core. That she was panting so hard she was almost dizzy. The rush of her approaching orgasm didn't surprise her. She'd learned last night that Gage could make her come almost any time he wanted, and right now he wanted her to come right away. I don't know if that's how bodies work. Her teeth clamped down on the blanket covering his bed, and she swore she could taste him on it. Ew. That thought, however crazy, only brought her climax on faster. She screamed into the bed, clutching the covers as her whole body shuddered violently. And when the first waves of orgasm passed, she got an even firmer grip, because there was something else last night that had taught her. Gage wouldn't stop with making her come only once. He would take her like this until she was sure she'd pass out. Then he'd make her come even harder. Well, that was something. Mac cuddled against Gage's chest, running her fingers over the muscles and lightly tracing his tattoos. She'd never been into guys with tats, but he made them work. She'd seen the Wolfhead SWAT tattoo during PT, and when they'd made love the previous night, but she hadn't gotten a good look at the other tattoo, the one he called his Ranger Scroll, until now. She traced her fingers along the black ribbon outline with its red inner line. Inside both lines were letters and numbers. Second Ranger I get, she said softly. What's BN stand for? It took Gage a minute to answer. He was pretty much comatose beneath her in his own post-orgasmic bliss. Battalion. I was in the 2nd Ranger Battalion out of Fort Lewis. He said the word so quietly she wasn't sure if she should ask him anything else about it. She remembered how he'd smiled in all the military pictures out on the wall, but looked almost somber in every photo after that. She wanted to know more about Gage, though. Hell, she wanted to know everything about him that there was to know. I remember seeing in your public relations bio that you spent 6 years in the Army. Was all of it with the 2nd? Not counting basic and initial schooling, yeah, I was in the 2nd the whole time. I came in right after Desert Storm kicked off and was out by the middle of 97. I saw the pictures out on the wall. Were they your friends in the 2nd? Of course they'd been his friends. He'd taken pictures with them, but he seemed to understand what she was asking. They were more than that. They were like my family, he said quietly. 1st Platoon, 1st Rifle Squad, my brothers. Mac realized then that he'd never said a word about family until now, and when he did, it was in terms of soldiers he served with. They sound like amazing guys. Do you stay in touch with them? Gage didn't answer, and the silence stretched out until she lifted her head off his chest to look at him. His eyes were closed, and when they opened, she couldn't miss the sadness in them. No, he said. They're all dead. Okay. Crap. Why the hell had she asked that question? Couldn't she have just left well enough alone? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to bring up a painful subject. He gently twirled a lock of her hair around his finger. It's okay. You couldn't have known. It was a long time ago anyway. It hurts to think about, but not like it used to. She rested her head on his chest again, furiously trying to think of something that would help change the topic of the conversation, but her mind was completely blank. It was back in August, 1996. Gage's voice was soft and so full of sadness she almost stopped him, but she didn't. If he wanted to talk, she shut up and listened. We were supposed to be on a simple training rotation in Kuwait. You know, run around, shoot some blanks, cross-train with the Kuwaitis and Saudis. But for some reason, somebody with a star on his shoulder decided to send 1st Platoon up to the northern part of Iraq, the part that's called Iraqi Kurdistan now, to conduct some goodwill development with the regional Kurd forces. My squad leader tried to point out it wasn't even a ranger job, but nobody really cared about that, so we are all sent up there anyway. He fell silent for so long that Mac thought he was finished, but then she realized she could hear his heart beating fast beneath her ear. It wasn't so bad at first. Kind of fun, actually, he continued. The platoon leader had each of the squads farmed out, working with a different part of the Kurdish militia. They certainly needed our help, so none of us minded. Then on the 31st, Saddam got a hair up his ass and decided to send his forces up to the town of Erbil for a little ethnic cleansing, right where our squad was set up. 9 of us, stuck right in the middle of a place we really weren't supposed to be, with no support and almost no ammo. Mac held her breath, waiting. As you can imagine, it didn't go well for us. We were fighting side by side with the Kurds, and we put up one hell of a defense. But they didn't have much in the way of heavy equipment, and we didn't have any. A whole lot of people died in a really short period of time, including every member of my squad but me. My squad leader died in my arms as I tried to drag him out. I need to have one of my military friends listen to this video. Mac was crying and didn't have any clue why. 'Cause it's sad. She hadn't known those men, but Gage had, and their deaths had hurt him, so she hurt too. August of 1996, she murmured. Isn't that what they call Desert Strike? I remember reading about it somewhere, but I don't remember seeing anything about any U.S. ground casualties. We just dropped a bunch of bombs and fired off some cruise missiles. He snorted. Yeah, that's what they called it, but the bombing and cruise missiles happened in the days after the initial attack. Didn't do us or the Kurds any good. My squad was wiped out by then, and I barely dragged my shot-up ass back to the extraction point in time to hook up with the rest of the platoon. They've been pretty beat up too, but nothing like my squad. The worst part? The official report reads that my squad members all died in a training accident down in Kuwait. No one wanted to admit the U.S. even had ground forces in the Kurdish region. Crap. Is that why you decided to get out? He hesitated for a long time before answering. That had a lot to do with it. I just couldn't be a part of the big machine anymore. They didn't even care about us. Mac understood Gage a little better now than she had before. how he'd risen so fast through the Dallas PD ranks, why he'd taken over the SWAT team and rebuilt it in his image. They were an organization that took care of their own above all else. His arm tightened around her. Sorry I unloaded on you like that. I'm not sure why I did. It definitely doesn't qualify as romantic pillow talk. I don't mind, she said. I get the feeling you needed to tell someone that story for a long time. I'm just glad it was me. I guess you're right, he sighed. I try not to think too much about the part of my past. I didn't even realize it was weighing on me until I told you about it. She tilted her face up to kiss him. It was amazing how close she felt to him after that little peek into his past. It made her want to learn everything about him. You can tell me anything. He gazed at her so deeply and thoughtfully she almost teared up again. I might just take you up on that offer sometime. I wonder if that foreshadows anything, guys. She rested her head on his chest again, smiling as she realized his heart was now beating in that strong, slow rhythm she was used to. Anytime you're ready. Alright, then. Should I go on to chapter 10? No. Chapter 10 is actually pretty freaking long. So we will save that for some time later. Yeah. Now we know a little bit more about Gage. I don't really care. But yes, goodbye.